Speaking of the language, like how long did it take you to learn or master the French language?
Long time, long time. It took me 3 years, I would say, to get to the point where like you can go to a party and there's like, more than one conversation happening and you're able to kind of follow what's going on. It took me a really long time. One, because I'm dyslexic and I didn't understand how that would affect my language learning. So I had to learn that to understand why it was taking me so long. And the second part is that I was still traveling. So I was still, taking time in and out. So I was having like breaks in and out of the language. And another problem is that my business was working with Anglophones. So I really had to force myself to put myself in situations to force me to speak French, because if I didn't, I could have so easily have just stayed in this sort of Anglophone bubble and never have learned the language. So I made a dedicated effort sort of every day to do something in French. But, I say they call them romance languages because you need to be in love with them to actually learn them because they're so complicated. Like, if it's a romance language, that just means extremely complicated. You need to love this language because this is going to be hard as hell. Pretty much.
Oh, no, I totally understand it. Like, people say, like, oh, English language is hard. Like, yeah, no, it's not. It's really not. Like I'm glad I learned Italian when I was a kid, when I grew up learning Italian, because like so many, you need to remember so many words. Like every single subject's got its own verb in different ways and different. Like it's so much to remember. Like, and now that I speak English most of the time, I started forgetting Italian. Like, I don't know, but there's so.
Don't forget your Italian. Don't do it because you'll kick yourself.
No, I'm not forgetting, but I definitely get rusty. Like I was talking with a friend the other day, and like keep saying like, "How do you say that in Italian? How do you say that in Italian?" Oh, I keep forgetting.
He's like, "What's wrong with you, man? You better move back before you lose your vibe."
Yeah, I just need to watch some Italian movies or something just to refresh my Italian.
Yes, I know what you mean. I mean, but that's the same thing, like people think that that's funny, but that's the thing with language. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. And that was the problem. So when I was traveling and going away for a month or 3 months, I wasn't speaking French. And it was like, poof, all that progress I had made, I had to redo, because I wasn't using it, so I would lose it. And I kept having to repeat and to a point where I was just like, I'm just not going to travel for a while. And I just need to wait until I have a really strong grasp on the language before I go hopping off, because I just kept sort of regressing every time.
And do you have any particular advice that you want to give to the listener that maybe they're planning to go to France or they're planning to go somewhere else and need to learn the language? Do you have a thing that helped you the most to trying to learn the language?
I would say don't be cheap. You get what you pay for. It's like wine. You pay $1.50. I mean, what do you really expect?
Good hangover.
You know what I mean? It's not going to be great. I would say it wasn't until like I sort of made a proper investment in a school that not only taught me the language, it taught me about the culture. It focused on pronunciation. It focused on so many, the psychological way of learning a language. Learning language that you're going to actually use, because if you just learn all of this stuff and you're not using it, it doesn't go into your long-term memory. It just gets dumped and you don't make any progress. So it's making sure that when you're learning the language, it's serving a purpose. Like you pull out of it what you can use immediately, and you need to start using it, like at the butcher's, at the bakery, at the grocery store, anywhere, anytime. You can force yourself. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and looking like an idiot. You have to not care about that at all and just try to use whatever language you have. If you worry about being perfect before you speak, you'll never make any progress.
Oh, no, absolutely. The mistakes are part of the learning. It's probably the best, like a teacher, like making mistakes and say something silly.
Yeah. And honestly, most of the time, especially in France, because French people don't like to look like they don't know things. So even if they speak English but they think they speak bad English, they're not going to speak English with you. But if you try to speak bad French to them, then they feel okay to speak to you in their bad English. So now you're both practicing, you know? So, but if you don't make any effort, they just won't speak to you. They'll just speak French at you. And you're like, I know they speak English and whatever. But if they don't feel comfortable, that's what I say. When people are doing things, you also have to think about the other person you're in front of. It's not just about you. It is actually also about the other person. They may be just as uneasy with speaking English as you are uneasy about speaking French. And the way that you can meet someone in the middle is by making an effort. And you will progress just a lot faster that way. And people will help you more if you make the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love your way of thinking of the other person, not just yourself. I love your way of thinking.